if you're of a certain vintage, the BMW 840i will mean something different to you. But now you can get it in a coupe for the last few years, in fact, and Grand Coupe. But what's sweet about this version of the car is it has 335 brake horsepower from this 3-litre, so it's an 840 badge, but a 3-litre 6-cylinder petrol engine. It's got over 500 Newton meters of torque, but despite all that, and a 0 to 60 time of just over 5 seconds, it will still deliver decent enough fuel economy if you take it easy. It's got ever so slightly mild hybrid technology going on, where you can just see the battery just waiting there in the bottom of the rev counter if you're not using the engine or you're coasting or something like that. But what's it like, and can you live with it? How much does it cost? And is it possibly one of the better looking BMWs on sale today? They're just some of the questions we're going to answer in this review. And if you'd like to join the Nobby on Cars YouTube channel, you can hit subscribe in the link just down below. One thing you'll probably want to go for in your 8 Series is an M Sport pack that will get you nicer wheels, a slightly lower ride height, and black around the glass, the Hofmeister kink and the grille, because that chrome will be gone. Under the bonnet then is quite a glorious sounding 6-cylinder petrol engine. And someone actually commented on Twitter when I put a picture of this car, and they got a point. When you're spending this kind of money, and EVs, well, they're not quite the price of this, and I'll get to it in a second, at least for this price, you're getting a serious chunk of car. And physically, it's not far off 4.9 meters long. It's just over 1.9 meters wide. So it's got quite a big footprint. There's a lot of onboard tech, including really good forward and rear vision cameras that will help you park it also. This has BMW's laser headlights, which are really brilliant, and the M Sport pack also affords you this kit, which really goes very low down into the car indeed. There's little air intakes over the side for airflow over those front wheels and down the side of the vehicle. Not particularly tall in a typical Grand Coupe style. You've got split sunroofs, so there's a bar across here, and they've got their own individual closing roof blinds, so you can let in light in certain aspects of the car should you wish. This is arguably one of the best features and angles of the car, just with the boot spoilers integrated into the actual boot lid. But there's a lovely little lip on it. You've got flared parts on the M Sport kit around the back here, an 840i badge, and actual exhausts. The boot actually isn't too shabby either, so it's 440 litres in the Grand Coupe version of the car, which is bigger than an awful lot of hatchbacks. It's 420 if you go for the 2-door coupe, and 350 litres if you go for the convertible. So the practicality is actually here, and it's 40, 20, 40 on the seats, and you can drop them down, unlike the E63 6 Series, of which I own 2 of them. And twice I got caught in IKEA because I couldn't drop the seats and fit stuff in. So actually, a bit of practicality there. It's still quite a shallow opening, but you can't have everything with this style of car, to be fair. Not only is this version of the 8 Series cheaper than the 2-door version, but you get all this space, and there's lots of it. Now, it is strictly a 2-seater. There's a third seat belt, but I mean, where are you going to put your legs? At least they've offered a lot into this center console, which is climate control, heated seats, 2 USB charging points, and your own individual air vents. But you know what? There's an awful lot of leg room. I mean, I don't want to. The length of this car is quite close to the 7 Series, and I can't see there's much of a difference between the rear leg room in a 7 Series and this. Perhaps, you know, when you've got these seats lower down, there's no room for your legs, stuff like that. But your knees, there is tons of space, and that extra roof really helps because it's quite a low slung car, and the head heights, particularly if you're tall in the back, it is going to be a little bit squeezed, but that glass just helps keep it fresh and airy. You've also got an armrest, and it has very fancy looking cup holders and extra storage down here for maybe an iPad mini, that kind of size. It's not particularly big, but I love the way everything tucks away and works just as it should. And of course you have the M Sport colours in your seatbelts. Alright, so let's talk bread for a second. You are the person who spent all the money on this car. When you start it up, there's a little bit of a burble and a gurgle on the exhaust when you floor it. So €144,000 is the starting price of this car. You can get blingy optional extras such as this, I don't know what you call it, it's like a crystallized gear knob. Your iDrive selector has a mirror on top of it. Can you actually, yeah, you could check to see if your nose and your eyelashes and everything are on point. So you've got two cup holders down here, they're hidden away by this door. Physical buttons are lots of things, aircon, the things you want, and your adaptive comfort sport mode, your shortcut to your cameras, so you can quickly see things in traffic, see your surroundings. Loads of space under the armrest here. These are of course electric seats. They're heated but they're not air cooled. I would like to see air cooled for the price. Also, this infotainment system, it's very good. It's been around a good few years now. In fact, it's not like the iX models, for example. It doesn't sweep into the dashboard, hasn't got the same software at the back end, but it's still very usable. I think I first encountered this in, God, would have been probably 2018. The 3 Series and the Z4 review. You can watch all of those if you just search BMW on the channel, they'll pop up. And it's fast and the software is quick and it does CarPlay. I think Android Auto is still not a thing. Worth checking that out on your specific model before you order it. And yeah, it just works. You've got Hey BMW and nice connections to everything. And I love the kind of home screen, the way it has your phone, your nav, and whatever source of entertainment you're listening to. Even the glove box is not a bad size. This steering wheel, again, it's from the G35 series. That hasn't changed. You do have paddles though for changing gear. And again, the BMW infotainment system for the instruments is also very similar, tried and tested. It's got a little sensor for keeping an eye on the driver here, and it will do things, some of the safety stuff, seen on other BMWs, but if you come to a stop sign, for example, it will flash here, and if you're going what it thinks is too fast, it will give you an audible warning to say, hey, this is a stop sign straight ahead. So I've no issues with the iDrive or the system. I like the physical buttons, and when you don't want to see all these cables and stuff, you can tuck it away. There's further USB-C charging ports down here, and there's an old-fashioned USB-A down here. Door bins are even decent. Actually, they've crammed a lot of practical stuff into what is a low-slung coupe design. Dravet grey is the colour of this car. It's kind of like a chameleon effect, because when the sun shines on it, it goes kind of like a weird grey-green colour, but it is kind of like a flat grey then in other kind of lights. This has €20,000 worth of extras, like a tech pack which gets you the Bowers and Wilkins sound system. It's ivory white leather, so someone has gone, you know, fairly to town. You've got head-up display and parking assist and driving assist, which doesn't steer it necessarily for you, but it will do the radar cruise and all that kind of stuff. I think that's an €11,000 optional extra. It is not a cheap car, but we do need to go for a drive. And if I've earned your sub by now, please do hit the button there below to help support us on the channel. If you'd like to support us in any way at all, you can tip us on PayPal. We're on Patreon. buymeacoffee.com/NobbyOnCars. All our super chat for £2 on YouTube. Anything helps, and thank you very much. It's the very helpful surround thing I was talking about earlier on in terms of parking it. Now if we flick it into sport mode, the default is traction off, so just be wary of that if you're trying out your beautiful 8 Series for the first time. There's the stop sign warning. I'm not even going fast there, but it still wanted to warn me about impending death. Whoa, and it nicely drifts if you want it to. But it always feels in control. It never feels like it's, you know, it is a dry day in fairness and the tires are good because this is a new car. But yeah, it's a little bit playful when you want it to be. Same on a roundabout there. The noise though is just gorgeous. I mean, it sounds a little bit probably louder in the Supra, but you know what, interestingly, in 1989 525i went past me the other day, and he opened it up away from the set of lights and he was going that way and I was just waiting for the lights, but the sound off it, BMW have managed to hold on to that sound and been fairly true to it in my opinion. Like, many decades have passed since that straight 6 was in that 5 Series, but you'd still audibly have a little bit of a connection to it. And I thought that was worthy of a mention when I was filming the video today. Now, I haven't reset the trip on it, and it's sitting at 10.7 litres per 100 kilometres. Having said that, now my average in real time is like, it was 5 there a second ago. It can be 17. It just depends how you're driving it. But if you do take it relatively easy in this car, it's actually not too bad. I've used a quarter of a tank in 4 days of driving this car. That's all relative to your mileage. I do take that on board. But my point is, I've had some thirsty Beamers in the past, and actually this is kind of behaving itself. Suspension is odd. I mean, it's very comfortable. It really is very forgiving over things like ramps. However, the profile in these tires is very small, so it will catch you off guard in a pothole, going over a manhole, or some imperfections in the road. But then when you slow down to go over ramps, it's actually very comfortable, and the springs seem just right. But not always the case, and you can hit it at the wrong angle with those alloys, and you're going, oh God, I felt that. Another bit of that engine noise for you. From what I can tell, it seems to be that's the sound. They're not piping in any fancy stuff. If you know otherwise, do let me know in the comments down below. And then, of course, you can just flick it into comfort. There's Eco Pro there. I don't see why you'd bother, but it's there. And it still sounds good. Perhaps not as loud. That's probably where they are tweaking the sound a little bit, is in sport mode. But just in normal comfort, you've got all the sound you generally want. And it's also quite quiet. When you're not pushing it on, you really wouldn't know. You'd think this is just a 520i. Not too long ago, the E46 M3 didn't exactly have an awful lot more brake horsepower under the bonnet, so it was good enough for that car. I've seen some reviews criticising the steering of the car, saying it doesn't quite feel like a BMW. It is heavy. The feedback is generally there, but I kind of get what they mean. There's perhaps a little bit less direction going on when you turn the wheel. It's ever so slight, though. I don't know if it's a massive negative point, but I take that criticism maybe on board. You do some sound again, maybe? Like, I've driven the Supra, and that sounds beautiful. It is a bit louder than this car, but this isn't a sports car, so I can understand why you wouldn't want it constantly screaming at you. Can't say I've used the paddles much. They're there if you want to mess around with the gears. Loads of safety stuff, as I mentioned, including the speed sign, which is down here, and it tells you if you're braking, it tells you if you're not to overtake on a road. It picks up all those kind of signs through the cameras on the front, and then also in the nav, whatever's been programmed in. I can compare my own ownership to an F13 640D, and that was a big bus, and you couldn't throw that the way you can throw this. This is still a big car. It's not a 3 Series, it's not a Z4, so I don't want to overdo it, but actually you can still have a bit of fun. So the main thing to ask yourself in this car is that what else is out there competition wise? Like, it's so quick, it really is, like, and that sound is just addictive. And then when you ease off the throttle, it shuts down. You can see it in a battery symbol, and it's using nothing. And then if you touch the accelerator, but it will actually shut down to save fuel. That's kind of cool. Now I'm on a kind of a twistier setup now, and yeah, it still takes to a bend like a BMW should. And you've got that soundtrack. It's just like, it's just so good. It's so nice. The brakes are huge and brilliant. There's no regen braking going on. It's just actual friction. Oh, you'd like to stop? Okay, I get it. I love that. Power on through a corner, and it's still very low down. You just feel the steering going. You sure you wanna keep? Oh God, like it's just such a quick car in a straight line. And even that said, you know, when you encounter a bend, you know you'll be all right. You know, I just miss car standing like that. I really, really do. It's so good. And if you're a petrol head, you just can't help but be enthralled by that sound and want to do it over and over again because it just sounds incredible. It's definitely louder, all right. But yeah, it's, whoa, it's still got great grip. I have to say, I don't know if you need an M5. I mean, an M5 is another level, of course it is, but actually in your day-to-day world, maybe that's what this car is actually competing with, an M5. 90% of the fun that you can legally have, whoa, in an M5 in this car. Right, I'm gonna relax now. Time for a summary. I get that it's not a cheap car. In fact, some of you watching may feel that that danger sign should be about the price tag of the car. So this one comes to about €163,000, and you're going to have to spend beyond the 144 to get the M Sport anyway. But is it beautiful? Yes. Does it drive like a BMW should? For the most part, yes. Has it got a crazy looking nose on the front? No. I don't want to call it a timeless classic, but I think in years to come, this will be a very desired car, much like the Mercedes CLS still is, albeit an expensive car to run. This won't be quite as expensive just in terms of fuel economy and things like that. Even the road tax is reasonably affordable, €790, and you can say your car has the same engine as the current gen Toyota Supra. And that's worth some bragging rights, although BMW came up with it. Look, it's kind of hard for me to say would I buy it because, well, of course I would if I had the money. I don't. But if you do have the money, should you consider it? Is it a kind of under the radar sleeper? Yes. And for that reason, leaving money aside, you'd have to check it out. It's excellent and beautiful, of which I'm neither. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you in the next one.